Yes, it's another episode of Hush No More with Dr. Vanessa. Y'all, come on, get ready for a great night talking about some good topics. I hope y'all like my t shirt. Coercion is not consent. Every week, I'm going to wear a different t shirt because I love statement t shirts. If you have an idea of a t shirt that I can wear, let me know so I could check it out because I love to make a statement when I walk in the room. Thank you, because this is another episode of Hush No More with Dr. Vanessa, and we are going to talk about the infamous R. Kelly. But before we jump into it, I want to make sure that I shout out my sponsor, CTR Media Network. If you've never heard of CTR Media Network, you're missing out. They have amazing shows. They talk about some great topics. Everything on there is about learning, about encouragement, positivity. It's nothing negative. And so I actually absolutely love CTR Media Network. And I thank them for sponsoring us. Dr. Tina Ramsey is amazing. If you want to start a podcast or you need more information about their streaming services, please reach out to her. So let's get started today. We are going to talk about R. Kelly. And I've gotten a lot of text messages, a lot of comments about R. Kelly. And first, I want to start off. This is not to bash him. I think that he is a lyrical genius. He has helped a lot of performers, a lot of singers. He's amazing, right? When it comes to writing music and performing, I've seen R. Kelly a couple of times. He puts on a really good show. So this is not about his music, right? It's not about his music. It's about just the things that he has done in his life, things that he has done as a person, right? That's what this is about. And I'm very factual, so I'll make sure that tonight I will show you information that where I got it from, because some of you don't believe it. Some of you do not believe that R. Kelly is guilty. Some of you think that the government set him up. Some of you believe that it's a whole conspiracy, right? It's not just a necessary conspiracy. These are things that he has really done. If you want to find more information, you can go to this website. It's ice.gov. They did a whole write-up on R. Kelly from a legal standpoint of the things that he's done. And so that's what I'm going to start with tonight first, from a legal standpoint. So y'all not saying that I'm not being fair, that I'm not giving you the right information, and that he really wasn't guilty. Okay. Because I know some of you are saying that. So we're going to talk about Robert Sylvester Kelly, right? On June 29th, 2022, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Some people said that was too much, that wasn't enough. It varies. They did a 6-week trial. And just so you all know, these are the things that he was charged with. Counts of racketeering, criminal conduct including sexual exploitation of children, forced labor, and Mann Act violations involving the coercion and transportation of women and girls in interstate commerce to engage in illegal sexual activity. Essentially, that's human trafficking, okay? They had 45 government witnesses, including more than 10 victims, 5 of who were named in the superseding indictment, because, they had been trying to charge him before, testimony from his employees. They had text messages, video, audio recording, photographs, phone and travel records, DNA evidence, and expert witnesses. So this is not just, R. Kelly was not guilty, that they didn't have any evidence. When you get DNA evidence, you got videos, you got text messages, you got photos. Come on now. So he really was guilty. So for those that think that he wasn't guilty, he was guilty of the things that they say that he did. Okay. I would tell you that when Homeland Security started investigating you, you're at the next level. They consider R. Kelly as a prolific serial predator who utilized his wealth and fame to prey on the young and vulnerable by dangling promises of fame, fortune, and stardom for his own sexual gratification. For nearly 30 years, Kelly and his accomplices silenced his victims through bribery, intimidation, blackmail, and physical violence, thinking that they were immune to justice. Okay. That's a quote. This is what they said. Okay. So when you look at like his entourage, his bodyguards, the accountants, everybody that was rolling with him, we're going to talk about that tonight. But first, I want to be fair, because I always make sure that I'm fair when I'm talking about certain topics, right? And a lot of you may or may not know that R. Kelly actually came out and said that he was molested from the age of 7 to 14. This may very well be true, and this is why I say that. 1 in 6 boys, men, have been molested. We know there's a high number. We also know that 90% of child sexual abuse is by family members, and he said that multiple family members had molested him. Okay. This is a real problem in our society that we do not talk about boys being molested. We'll talk more about girls. Some of y'all don't want to talk about that, but we don't really talk about the boys that are being molested, right? We also know that when children are exposed to pornography or sex at a very early age, there are times that they become promiscuous at a very early age, right? They become hypersexual. They experience more levels, engagements of sex than other children that have not been exposed to that. And so we do know that that can be. But I will also tell you that just because you were molested as a child doesn't mean that you should become a predator yourself, because we all can get help, right? We all can go to counseling. There's things that you can do. And so that's even if it's you. If you have been molested as a child and you are experiencing different things that related to that, there is help available. Okay, there is help available. And I think that that's important to discuss how often this happens. And parents, when you see people like R. Kelly come forward and say that they were molested as a child, the rate that children are being molested is very high. And I encourage you to have these conversations with your children, to talk to them about it. And I tell people to start talking to their kids when they're a baby. When you're changing a pamper, you should be saying, this is a private space. This is the only place that mommy and daddy can be. You know, this is a protected. Please talk to mommy or daddy if something happens. Like, you have those conversations in infancy. So as they're growing up, they can trust you and understand that this is their protected place. And also, like, you shouldn't be calling their private spots names like the cookie, right? We want to actually use like vagina and penis, because if they ever need to report or tell you or tell a teacher, using the nicknames is not really held up in court. And it's very difficult to know what your children are talking about. So we always encourage that they use the name, okay? That we use the name. All right. Hey, Nay. So Nay says, right, being hurt as a child can be used as an excuse to become an abuser. It can, right? And I do believe that people struggle with that. Some people struggle with some homosexuality, but that doesn't mean that that's the case. That doesn't mean that that's what's actually going to happen, right? And so I think that it's unfair that people blame their criminal activities on childhood abuse, because a lot of us have been abused, but it doesn't mean that we're going to abuse somebody else, okay? Tanisha said, very interesting topic. Thank you for discussing this with us. You are welcome. I mean, you've had some good conversations about it too, offline. So I'm excited to talk about it. So first, I want to talk about victims. And I want to talk to you all about the brain, right? So when you look at the brain, it is not mature at the age of 18. Even though you're an adult, considered in our society as an adult, your brain is not mature. Our brain really doesn't mature until we're between 20 and 25 years old. And the brain matures at different levels, at different speeds. So a boy might be a little slower. I don't want to say slower. I gonna say that boy's brain is slower. A boy brain will mature at a slower rate than a woman. I still don't want to say it like that. How do I want to say that? A young male's brain matures probably between 22 and 25, when a female's brain can mature about 20, 21. So when people look at children and they say, they were young, you know, but they still knew what they were doing, our decision-making skills are not always at its best until we are 20 and older. Okay, so I want y'all to always think about that. Think about the brain. Do I think that it is an excuse? No, I do not think that it's an excuse, right? I do not think that you can always use the brain as an excuse, but it is science that our brain is not always at its greatest decision-making status, okay? So always remember that, right, when we're talking about it. So first, ever since R. Kelly was in his early 20s, he has showed behavior of being a predator. And the first space you really see it in, right, is at Kenwood High School in Chicago. A lot of people talked about how R. Kelly would come back to his old school and how he would pick up young girls in high school and kids that were like middle school age and high school age. And it was very common in that community to know that R. Kelly was going to come back. But because of his superstar status, people really didn't make it a big deal. Like, if you are at the high school, do you got any business at the high school? But once you graduate, you really shouldn't be coming back unless it's homecoming, right? Maybe a football game here and there, but just hanging out and preying on young girls that are still in school, that is a no. So do you think that even from a school perspective, that they held some type of responsibility? I do. I think that a lot of the teachers knew, the community leaders knew, people in the neighborhood knew, and I really do believe that they hold some type of responsibility. Now, y'all might not agree with me. That's my opinion, but that's what I believe. I believe that the principal should have said something, the teacher should say something, and maybe they did, and we just don't know, but the behavior didn't stop. And so I think that that's a really big deal because we got to really talk about it. Not just R. Kelly, but other stars as well. I agree. I agree about other stars as well. So if you look back in history, we got Elvis Presley, right? Elvis Presley was one, Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard, Chuck Berry. In our society, a lot of times superstars get away. Like they're able to have sex with young girls, marry young girls, and not be held accountable for it. So that is a good point. That is a really good point. And we're going to talk more about, like, my thing is to just talk about the topics, right? Because it's not just R. Kelly. It's a lot of stars, right? A lot of stars. For me, I wanted to break down R. Kelly case because people have been waiting for me to say something and I haven't came out publicly and spoke about it. So I'm just going to tell y'all tonight what I think about it. Nay, I think they should have spoken up or something. I do too. When you're in school, you're supposed to be protected by the adults, and people did not protect them. So I do think that they should have spoken up. Okay. And Nay agrees with you, Tanisha. All right. And victim blaming is crazy. I hate victim blaming. And I already know that some people want to blame the victim, and that's going to be the case. Because people do blame victims all the time. And that's why I talked about the brain very early, because do we hold children accountable, right? Do I think that kids know right from wrong? Yeah, they know right from wrong. Do I think that some of the girls wanted to become superstars and they idolized R. Kelly? Yeah, I do. Do I think that they wanted to stay in his mansion and wanted that attention? Yes, I do. I do believe that. That was for some of them, right? Not all of them. But when we look at children, they can't make the decision. I do not hold any child responsible if they have a relationship with an adult, if they sleep with an adult, if they hang out with an adult, if they ride in a car with the adult. That is not on that child. It is up for the adult to say that this is wrong. Period. Hands down. So for anyone that says it's the children's fault, you're wrong. Now, when you're looking at the adults, the ones that are older, they do have to accept some responsibility, right? Especially when they were looking at the game. They do, because some people do come forward and they try to build relationships because they're looking for something. But we're talking about the ones that are underage, and those was his target. He was targeting young girls. And the first public girl that we saw that he was targeting was Aaliyah. And people did not want to believe that he was with Aaliyah, right? They did not want to believe it. They didn't want to believe that Aaliyah was married. I don't know how many of y'all saw on BET when they did the whole interview and they had the matching outfits and they looked all cool. I remember that interview. And they didn't really say that they were together. They kind of evaded. Aaliyah didn't even tell you how old she was. When R. Kelly met Aaliyah, she was only 12 years old. When they got married, she was 15. And they forged the documents. She was not 18. On the marriage certificate, it says that she was 18. She was not 18. She was only 15 years old, right? But the family got it dissolved, and everybody just said, okay, it went away. The next hit came out. Aaliyah hits came out, and nobody really talked about it again as often. But we knew that Aaliyah was in a relationship with R. Kelly. It looked at all cool. She looked at older, way older than what she was. Most people didn't even realize that she was 15. But that was wrong. And our society just said, okay, we're going to look the other way because he is an amazing artist, which he is. But was that right? So I feel like way back with Aaliyah that we failed her. We failed her. Yeah, we failed her. She said so many people failed her. Indeed. And then as a kid, I know when I had my first boyfriend, I didn't care what my mama said. It didn't matter what she said. I was going to try to be with him. I thought he was amazing. I thought he was cute and everything else. And so a lot of times we don't really pay attention to what our parents say, right? Damon says he did that because Jay-Z and Dame Dash wanted her to. Ooh, so Damon, I haven't heard that one, right? He got married because they wanted them to get married. Because that's interesting. I'm not sure about that. All right. So I'll look forward for your comments on why Jay-Z and Damon Dash had such an influence about Aaliyah. Okay. But I just never understood that. I never understood how it was okay in our society. And people always talk about cancel culture. We didn't cancel culture when it came to R. Kelly. Okay. Especially when somebody 15 years old. But they both was making hits. They both was amazing. And we just kind of looked the other way as a community, as fans, right? Because he was amazing. Right. So next, I want to talk about his entourage because that was real big in the court case. They talked about the entourage, which consisted of bodyguards, personal assistants, the drivers, his personal chauffeur, the tour bus drivers. They talked about the backup singers and how they were part of it. They talked about the accountant. I thought that it was real interesting that they included the accountant in the case as well. They talked about parents and other people. Okay. The one I want to tackle is the accountant. I would be so interested in knowing like the financial background of the people and families that R. Kelly paid off. So we do know that R. Kelly paid off some of the families who wanted to file a lawsuit against him, right? And who came forward against him and paid him off. So the accountant knew that. The accountant knew like all the times that it was a financial issue. And so I just think that people like that, even though they're getting paid, are they held responsible? Okay. And they said any grown man that was going after her was dead wrong. I agree. I agree. And what's crazy, Nay, I have to always say any woman too, because it's a lot of these women out here that be messing with little kids as well. All right. A lot of them. Damon, the help didn't care long as the checks cash. Right. They were all getting paid and they were getting paid good. All of them was getting paid good. The bodyguards was right there with him every time. The bodyguards, some of them from back in the day, which I don't understand how they was able to actually share this information because I'm pretty sure most of them had confidentiality agreements. Said that they would go and find young girls for R. Kelly. They would get numbers for R. Kelly. They knew exactly what was going on, right? But they were getting paid and they was right there by his side. And so I think that it's important to recognize that they hold some accountability as well. Okay. Frankisha said they knew everything of what was going on because money talks. Money obviously does talk, right? Money obviously does talk. And it's unfortunate, but that's what money and status. Because if you look at like the parties that R. Kelly had, all the events that he had, right? Who wouldn't want to be at that? Who wouldn't want to be at the party where you know another superstar was going to be there? Because he worked with Michael Jackson, he worked with Jay-Z, he worked with so many artists. So why wouldn't you want to be like around that, right? It's like this, all of this status and fun and parties and drinking and all of that, right? So it's pretty cool to be in that circle. And so I just feel like those individuals should have been held accountable, right? Especially when they knew if they partaked, if they was right there. They had witnesses that said who was there in the room when things happened. But the individuals, I guess it's really hard to get a good case going. So, but I just think that more people should be held accountable and not just R. Kelly, right? And that's just my opinion because they knew they was right there when it was happening and they was partaking in. Even like on the tour bus, they had a whole conversation about the tour bus and they were having sex on the tour bus, underage kids on the tour bus, in the house, even like down to the housekeeper. I believe the housekeeper knew. Like, you know what's going on. They said they should be held accountable too, but at the same time, they told what they knew. Yeah, they told what they knew. Um, they did. So I guess that was one reason why they kind of got off because they testified. But I feel like you really are a snitch when you get some type of gain, right? To me, snitches get stitches and end up in ditches, but snitching is different from reporting. Stitches, you got some type of gain. Like you the number one, you the number two drug dealer, and you snitch on number one drug dealer. Reporting means you just report it, you tell, and you're trying to prevent it from happening. And I just feel like if I tell you that you are going to get off, then you really are a snitch. And a lot of those people should have been reporting. I'm glad that they did do it, but they should have been reporting as well. Okay. Tracy said there are multiple people responsible to include the children's parents. Yes, I was waiting for somebody to say that, right? So the parents, okay. I'm gonna go both ways with the parents. Now, this is my opinion. I want y'all to drop it in the chat. But there are some parents that did not know where their children were. And I know some of you are going to say, how you don't know where your kids are? I want you to think back to when you were a kid, right? And you were supposed to be spending the night over your friend's house, and you and your friend went somewhere, y'all left. And your parents had no clue. And you were supposed to spend the weekend. Now, I know, and I'm going to put my sisters in here as well. Me and my sisters did it all the time. We would go over our friend's house, right? Hang out. And my mom had no clue what we were doing. So there are some instances that you trust that where your children are, that they are safe and that they're doing what they said they are doing, and that they are still in the city, right? Because some of these kids left their entire state to go be with R. Kelly, which is crazy to me, like on the weekends. So I want y'all to think about that, sometimes parents don't know, and sometimes we don't listen to our parents. I think that's important to remember that, because I've seen people real hard on the parents, right? Those that really did not know and had no idea, it's really hard to hold them accountable. And I just know what type of child I was. And I'm pretty sure my children have done some things that I had no clue that they did too. So remember, kids are manipulative. They could be sneaky, right? Don't forget that we were kids too. I remember we would just not want to go to church. So we went places so that we didn't have to go to church on Sunday. We was with our friends. So I want y'all to think about that as well. Now, on the opposite side, the parents that knew, oh, those are the ones that I really, really have a problem with. So some of the parents was getting money. Some of the parents wanted their kids to be a star and actually introduced them to R. Kelly. Some of the parents actually, right, knew everything, and then came back and wanted to sue R. Kelly and make money off of it after the fact. So them the parents that I really have a problem with. Next says it's 50-50 with me, because some parents were really clueless and some just wanted to reap the benefits, and it's sickening. It is sickening. And so some of the parents didn't know, but for the ones who were doing it because they was trying to make money, you're wrong. You are wrong. It's not almost like, it is like selling your child to somebody that's famous so that your whole family could get ahead, or so that you can get ahead. And that happened quite often. And I just think that that's despicable. I don't think that's what parenting looks like. I think that it's unfair to our children to have to grow up with a parent that way. And I used to think that most parents were good parents, right? But just in the work that I do, I've met some absolutely horrible parents, and also parents that are not held responsible, that's not held accountable. I've met parents that abuse their children physically, right? That will sexually abuse their own children. And this is not just men, this is mothers too. I've had cases where it was mothers sleeping with their young boys and with their daughters. It's absolutely disgusting. And so all parents are not right. And that's why you got to be careful where your kids go to stay. Because just because they're going over another parent house does not mean that that parent is a good parent. I never let my kids stay night over nobody else's house, because I ain't trust nobody. My kids didn't even stay at my grandma's house. Like, for real. Their whole entire life, as a child, they did not stay at my grandmother's house, because I just don't trust people around my kids. Okay, so and that's just me. Tom's parents know, and they dropped them off. Yeah, they was dropping them kids off. They did, and they was at the parties. They was there hanging out too. And those are the ones that are wrong. Those are the ones that we really have a hard time with, because I didn't see a parent that was being held responsible. I didn't see a parent that was coming forward and said, I made a mistake, I'm apologizing for my child. I hope those that did it would apologize to their children for what they did, but it's horrible. And Frankisha said it's human trafficking. It is human trafficking. And unfortunately, parents condone human trafficking and also make money off the backs of their kids. So they were just as wrong, right? And a lot of times people don't even really pay attention to it, or they blame the parents more than they blamed R. Kelly. No, they both was wrong, right? Not just the parents. R. Kelly was too, but people was like, oh, the parents are responsible. What you think R. Kelly was going to do? Tell them girls to go back home. That's what most adults would do. Tracy said, yes, that's like prostituting your child for gain of money. It is prostitution. It is. And it's absolutely horrible. And for me, I just get really upset with the parents. And that's just my take on it. And they said they should be held accountable, but let's be honest, nothing probably would never happen to them. Nope. Nope. And then those are the children that have really bad relationships with their parents as well because of what has happened to them. Dr. Alicia said, that is so true. My mom did not let me stay at no one's house. Nah, you was my kids used to get upset. But what I did was I said they can come up to my house and we would have cookouts in the backyard, sleepovers in the backyard, but I would let children come to my house because my kids wouldn't go to nobody else's house. All right, Damon. Parents still drop kids off places. Example, Sand Hills Outdoor Mall. There was a shooting last week. The police told me kids was under 10, no guardian with them. And you know what? The outside malls, the malls, they have rules about how old the children can be to even be left there. And so you're absolutely right. Sometimes parents just let their kids go anywhere, hang out. And there was a really bad shooting there. Sand Hills Outdoor Mall, that is in Columbia, South Carolina. It's probably about 30 minutes from me. Not 30 minutes, like 20 minutes from me. And it really is a problem with parents not really being accountable for their actions as it relates to their children and not taking care of them. So parents, a shame. It upsets me. Oh, Tierra said Michael Jackson too. That's a whole show. That's a whole nother show to talk about Michael Jackson, right? But yeah, parents was dropping their kids off the Michael Jackson house, right? They were, and they was coming back and then wanting to sue, and they took a lot of money from Michael Jackson, a lot of people that he paid off. So you're absolutely right. Michael Jackson was one of those too, with parents and parents coming and hanging out with him. Dr. Leisha, I got upset too, but when I became a mom, I understood and let them come over to my house. Yeah, I was mad. My mama wouldn't let us go to nobody's house but the church people. But that's another show in itself. But just going to the church folks don't mean that they was any better, right? Because just because you have a religion doesn't mean that you're not a predator on children and that you're not molesting kids. And we found that out over and over again. But my mom would only say you could really go over to church people house, and that don't mean that they was right. And so I think that it's important that we talk about that too, that you really have to be careful about what the kids are and who they're hanging out with. So next, right? What about R. Kelly's family? Do you think that R. Kelly's family knew that this was going on? I know on the documentary Surviving R. Kelly, R. Kelly's brother, his younger brother, gives an interview and talks a lot on that documentary about what they knew. But what about the rest of his family? What do y'all think about that? I'll wait until the comments come in. And Tracy says some church people are offenders as well. Most definitely. So you can't just trust everybody around your kids. Okay. You cannot. And Frankisha said the parents want a break, so they didn't care. Yeah, they drop their kids off anywhere because they want a break, right? Just so they can go and hang out. But that's not the break. That's the unsafe break. And in all transparency, I don't act like I was the perfect parent because I wouldn't. I would tell y'all where I dropped my kids off at was the public library. My kids would be at the library while I went to go get groceries. Now, was that wrong? Oh, yeah, because they weren't supervised. But I did know that them librarians was watching my kids. They was in there reading books, watching videos, and they actually loved the library. So that was a place that I would take my kids to hang out when I needed to go to the grocery store, but I needed a break. Or sometimes they'll be in the library and I'm sitting out in the car just so that I could have a little bit of peace, right? So I'm not going to say that I've never dropped my kids off anywhere, but you best to believe that like at a mall or a public place, that was a no-go for me. If they was in the movies, I was all the way in the back because we was in that movie theater together. And that's just me. Okay. Damon said they knew. Avant knew. I don't know who Avant is. Who is Avant, Damon? And they said, I think some family members knew or just in denial about his actions. I think the family knew, and I think that he was paying them. You know how you got the famous person in your family that got all the money, and so when you come up short, you borrow money from them. I'm not that famous person to borrow money from, so please do not ask me to borrow money. But they do it. They actually want money. They are getting paid. They have a house. They have cars. R. Kelly really was one of those individuals that gave a lot. He gave a lot. He gave a lot to his community. He gave a lot to Kenwood High School. Like, he did a lot in the community. And so that is when it's really hard to turn down the money. And it's also really hard to turn the cheek. Dr. Alicia said, I think the family knew he was molested by a family member. I think so too. Even his brother talked about when he told R. Kelly that he had been being molested. So molestation, there was a problem in his family. A lot of times it's not just one child, it's multiple children, or it's a cousin, or it's generational, right? We look at child molestation as being a generational problem in our families. And so I believe that they knew too. I knew too. Damon said library is a great resource. People don't realize what they offer at the library. Oh, that's my favorite place. One day I'm gonna have a library named after me. So Avant is his singer brother. Okay. I didn't know that. I'm not real big on music, so I don't know everybody. And they said he gave a lot to hide what he really was doing, and did. A lot of money. A lot of money. I'd have been happy if he gave some money to Hush No More, and to help afterwards, like to give money to organizations that work on child sexual abuse or for sexual assault. Like, one thing that the Attorney General said was that R. Kelly was not remorseful. And that was another reason why he got 30 years, because there was no remorse. Like some type of action to say, okay, I'm sorry, or this is what happened to me, and so I want to prevent it from happening to me. We didn't see that happen. Janetta say, I believe family knew sometimes they don't want or know how to confront the dysfunctional behavior. I do believe that sometimes people do not know what to say or how to say it, or in their mind, they talk themselves out of it, or say, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not seeing what I think I'm seeing. But that's when people have called me and just said, Vanessa, how do I have this conversation with my child? How do I have this conversation with my family member? And that's when we talk it through and come up with a way to have that discussion. And it is a very difficult conversation to have. But if you don't have it, you won't know. And most of the times when you do approach a person that's considered a predator, they're going to lie and say they didn't do it. I always say, just do an investigation. Call the police. If you don't know how to handle the conversation, how to approach it, or what to say, then you can always call the police and report it, and then let the police do an investigation to see. But people weren't even reporting R. Kelly to the police. That was a problem as well. Okay. Gloria said, I'm definitely going to talk about this on my podcast too. Love you, beautiful. Great, because we got to talk about it. We have to bring awareness. And you have a lot of little beautiful babies, right? And so talking to our children about child sexual abuse, we got to have the conversation. We have to bring awareness to parents and let people know that it ain't just R. Kelly. It's the doctor. It's the principal, the school teachers. It's the pastor. It's the priest, right? A predator looks like the person that is sitting across from you. That's what it looks like. It's not the stranger danger. I don't even teach stranger danger. He would get it out and do it again. Yeah, I think so too. I don't think that he's reformed in the least bit, because he blames it on child sexual abuse, right? R. Kelly put out a new song remix last week. I heard that people said that was AI, Damon, that it wasn't him. That was fake, and they used his voice to create it. And if that really was the case, that's kind of scary, right? If that was the case. But they said that song wasn't even real, but I did hear it, right? I did. Nay, he would get out and do it all over again and have people back him up too. Yeah. And would, right? So I want to talk about like fans. Why do y'all think that fans made up excuses for him? Why do you think fans said that, oh, they lying on R. Kelly, it's not real? Why do you think just society did not believe that this was true? What do y'all think about that? Damon, the police and feds knew too. The feds let you do bad and get you when you get too big. I could see them doing. I could see that. Right? But some of it is also, Damon, when you are larger than life, it takes a lot of evidence. Just from the work that I do, we have to have a lot of evidence. Oh, when I tell you a lot of evidence, it's not just the victim saying that this happened to them. We have to have, like, they have pictures, text messages, videos, DNA, all of that. It is really hard to prove that someone committed a crime as relates to sexual assault, right? The victim is the person that has to prove that something happened to them and not the other way around. So sometimes it's not necessarily that the feds are allowing it to just continue. We have to have a lot of evidence, and we also have to have a witness. Sometimes victims do not want to come forward, they're fearful. And I will give you a good example. The ones who testified against R. Kelly, those victims received death threats, right? They went to a place where try to make it anonymous of those that had reported, but they were receiving death threats. That is crazy that you would threaten the life of a person that was sexually abused. Crazy to me. What if they were wrong about the abuse? Their family will go against them and they're scared to talk about it. What would you do? All right, Frankisha. So if you were wrong about the abuse, you was wrong. I'm sorry. I thought that this was the case. And that's it. I'd rather a person report something and it get investigated, and then it turns out that it's not real, then we're not saying nothing at all. Okay. That's just my stance on it. And I always tell people, be cautious when a person says I didn't do it or they're found not guilty, because sometimes it's not that they're not guilty, it's that we don't have enough evidence. There's not enough evidence to really hold them accountable, right? Especially if we don't have any DNA evidence, if we don't have any recordings, right? It's hard to prove. A lot of times it's he say, she say, or she say, he say. So we have to look at that as well. So I always say, do not just believe that a person is innocent because they didn't get convicted. That's another thing. But it is really hard to prove sexual abuse. Nay, the fans don't care because it's not them or their kids. That's a good point, because if it's my kids, I'm way more upset, right? I do advocacy work, so I care about anybody that has been hurt. But when it's my children, that's when I'm about to really go hard, right? So I agree that might be a reason why too. Kim said, society likes to blame women before believing a great man would do something like that. It's an ugly cycle that has been passed down for generations. It is an ugly cycle. And you'll hear things like a man gonna be a man, right? Where they have these excuses for the things and the behaviors that happen. And I totally disagree with that. I really believe that we have to do more to be able to stand up for victims, right? We have to stand up for victims. That's a cop-out to say, well, he was just a man, or she shouldn't have been around him anyway. No, they're children, right? They idolized R. Kelly. They idolized him. Fans are delusional, Damon. Some of them are delusional. And victims are not like protected as they should. I agree, Nay. It is so hard for victims to come forward, especially when the person is famous, or if the person is a family member or somebody that people know that's close to them. It is really hard for them to come forward and say something. So when victims come forward and they risk their lives, their careers, their reputation, it's not easy, because people will dog out a victim. Victim blaming is horrendous. It is horrible. I don't understand how people are so quickly to believe the predator, the accused, and not believe the victim, right? Now, do people lie? Yeah. Any class that I teach, I will say that we do lie. I'll give a whole example. When I was in Germany, we had a first sergeant that was sleeping with another soldier. She got pregnant and she lied and said she was raped. When they did the investigation, people came forward and said, oh, she was cheating on her husband. It came out, right? So do people lie? Yeah. But the percentage is like 1 to 3% of cases that we've seen that individuals lie. Majority of the time, what these people go through, what individuals go through, it's hard to come forward and tell something so personal that has happened to you. Tracy said, I was and am a fan of R. Kelly's music. I don't condone his behavior of what he has done to these young girls. I believe he does need to serve time, but he needs to take responsibility for his crime. Yeah, 30 years worth of time, 30 years. And he actually tried to appeal it, and it was denied this year, matter of fact. So, and like I said at the beginning, R. Kelly makes amazing music. I'm not saying nothing about his music. He is a genius, because Trapped in the Closet was the bomb. Like, we were all waiting for the next for the next episode to come out. Y'all remember that? So he's really good. I agree, Tracy. He's good. That's so true. Okay. I oftentimes ask myself, if my situation didn't happen the way that it did, would have ever told? Hmm. A lot of times, individuals question, like, should they tell, how they should tell, when should that happen? And it's not easy. Um, I will tell you that I've spoken at a the African United Methodist Church, right? And that's an older population. I think the youngest woman that was in there was probably 50, right? And out of 50 something women, six of them came up to me, and it was the first time that they had ever told anyone that they had been abused. Like, you got an 80-year-old woman that never told that she was abused. That is crazy, right? That is happening. It's not crazy that they didn't tell. It's crazy that people feel like they can't come forward and share something so personal, so that has happened to them. That we don't have this space where we can hush no more. And that's big to me, to create a space where people could just say, yo, this happened to me. I'm not necessarily ready to do anything about it, but I just want to tell somebody so that I can start healing and I can get it out. 1 to 3% will have everyone saying that everyone lies about their trauma. Right. That people will swear that everybody lying. Ken Cat said a lot of people don't separate the artist from their work and create their own warped narrative of who that person is, incorporating their own delusions. I'm so sorry. Let me start this over. A lot of people don't separate the artist from their work and create their own warped narrative of who that person is, incorporating their own delusions onto who they think he is. I totally agree. That is not who that person is, right? That's who their music is. But what's funny is, you look at R. Kelly music and other musicians who have committed some type of sexual abuse or rape or been with underage girls, it's in their music, right? Age Ain't Nothing But a Number by Aaliyah. R. Kelly wrote that. And essentially that was just talking about a young girl sleeping with and getting together with an older man, right? And it was a jam. Like, we don't always listen to the words of music. And so that's what's difficult too. It's in our music. Kim said it's like, say it's okay for boys and men to sleep and date a ton of women, but the minute a woman does the same as that thing, they are a whore slut. I don't understand why we as a people are so quick to believe the men that have shown us who they are instead of women or girls who say they have been violated. In our society, men and women are treated differently when it comes to abuse, right? How we take up for one sex over the other, how we come forward and really defend individuals, or whether we believe them or not. And how do we think that it's okay that one group of individuals could do something and the other group of individuals can't? So I agree with you, Kim, that is something that our society does, and it actually has become acceptable, and it's a norm in some type of way. Okay, it's a norm in some type of way. In their music, we definitely see it in their music. All right, Tracy said, I know we are talking about R. Kelly and taking responsibility for his actions. A good example of taking responsibility for your action is Chris Brown domestic violence incident with Rihanna. Yes. I don't know if y'all seen, well, I know most of you probably remember when Rihanna and Chris Brown got into the fight in the limo, but they had already been having a lot of domestic violence going on too, right? And have y'all seen Chris Brown documentary where he really says how sorry and how he was apologetic about what happened between him and Rihanna? And they were quite younger too, not to make it as an excuse, but they were in their younger days, it was teen dating violence. And I did like that Chris Brown did apologize, and they ain't together no more, and Rihanna now moved on. Both of them now moved on from it. But that is a good example of somebody coming forward and publicly saying that they're sorry, right? And I think that's important that people do that. And just in our society. So I don't like how people will make excuses for individuals and just automatically assume that they didn't do it without hearing all the evidence, right? The evidence against R. Kelly was solid. When you're going up against an individual in court, you have to have enough evidence to prove without a reasonable shadow of a doubt that that individual is guilty. Okay. So for those that say, "Oh, he didn't do it," and it's a conspiracy against the government, and they just, I also heard they just trying to bring a black man down, right? in our community as well, right? I would tell you this: when a person does something wrong, they should be held accountable for their actions, and especially when it's illegal, right, and unethical. So even if it wasn't a crime to be with those young girls, it's still wrong. It's still wrong. They were young, like 13, 14, 15, like little girls, like young girls. Now, do I think the girls look way older than what they are? Yes, they do. Some of these girls, I can't believe their age, right? Can't believe their age, but that's still not an excuse. When you start talking to an individual, you know how young they are. You know they are not grown at all, right? You know that they're not grown. So I think that it is important that we still talk about that and we think about that. When I talk to a young man, I know his age, right? If a young man about 20 years old try to talk to me, I already know his age. I know that he's not 50. I know that, right? So there's no excuse that you didn't know that person's age, and you should find out their age, especially if you're going to have sex with them. Nate said, people told me to read the script transcript because he didn't do all that we think he did. I know they did say that. I'm only going by the charges that he was proven guilty of, and that's 9. And when you look at racketeering and human trafficking across lines, and you're taking girls from party to party, from Super Bowl to Super Bowl, having sex with them, you're wrong. Okay. And Vicky, where's the parent? Oh, you missed that. We talked about parents. We talked about the parents that did not know or had a clue where their children were. But we also talked about those parents that should be held accountable, that did know and did make money off of their children being with R. Kelly. Okay. R. Kelly's daughter shared her story about him hurting her, but I didn't watch it yet. I probably wouldn't watch that. That's just me. It is really hard for me to watch stories like that. I didn't even see it. That's a hard one for me. It was hard for me to watch Surviving R. Kelly, especially when they start tearing up and crying. So um, that's a hard one for me. But that's enough. He's where he belonged. Yeah, 30 years worth. So that's what I think about R. Kelly. I do believe that in our society, we give people a pass when they're famous, when they're handsome, but that we should not give them a pass. Okay. That we should not give them a pass, that they should be held responsible. Okay. Be held responsible for your actions and own up in it. Own up to what you did and say you was wrong. And I think that people should be behind bars. I will caution you though, don't always be quick to believe somebody when they say they didn't do it. You know, a lot of times I take a stance back, especially if it's not my client. If it's my client, we going in together. But if it's somebody like in my community, I see it on the news or it's just a conversation, I try not to make judgment. I believe that there should always be an investigation. I also believe that the court system should be able to hold them accountable. And a lot of times they not. A lot of times people get off. And so I don't always believe everything that I hear. I'm a researcher. And so that's why it was real big for me to research everything from the case standpoint of what happened. That is really the only way that you're going to know what happened, is to really dig into the case, because sometimes we don't know. And so I want y'all to think about that people are always going to say that they're innocent. And in our court system, is you're innocent until proven guilty. That's the way it is. But I will tell you, there are a lot of people that are not innocent, that they are guilty. But in our court system, we have a hard time proving that this individual did it. Okay. So thank y'all for entertaining me tonight. I think that it was important that we just had this conversation and talk about it, right? Next week, I'm going to talk about P. Diddy. So if y'all want to join me next week, I'm going to have that conversation too. I am in this place where I'm just going to give my opinion. You might not agree with me, or you may agree with me. Either way, I think it makes for an interesting topic, an interesting conversation. You can always reach out to us if you have any questions or if you need any support. You can go to our website, hushnomore.org. Our number is 1-888-285-2161. So you can call us and just have a conversation with us. It's important that we talk about it, that we support those in our community. And if you don't know how to talk to somebody about what has happened to you, you could reach out and talk to me. I think that it'd be a conversation that will be interesting, and then it'd be value added, because sometimes we have to come forward and talk about it. Okay. I want to thank again CTR Media Network for being our sponsor, because they're amazing. And I got a couple of more. Thank you, Angela. She said it was amazing. Thank you, Tracy, for saying it's good. And Nikki, I love these conversations. Thank you. Thank you, Nay. I think we got to have more conversations, right? We have to talk about it. If you want to follow us, please follow our social media. We're trying to get more followers, more engagement. Also, April 12th, we have Stump Out Crime. If you are in Columbia, South Carolina, or in the surrounding areas, from 9 to 11, we'll be giving out free clothes, shoes, jewelry, food. We have clothes donated from Versona, It's Fashion, Cato's, Walmart. Like, it's a lot of good stuff, like brand new clothes. Michael's Dry Cleaners donating. I'm so excited about that. April 17th, we are partnering with Hilo Art, and we're going to be at my house in Columbia, and it is going to be Our Voices Matters and spoken word. So if you are a poet, I would love for you to come out and get on the mic. We're going to have performances by all the Hilo Art artists. It's going to be a great night, just raising awareness during Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And then October 18th, I'm so sorry, it was 19th last year. October 18th is our Domestic Violence Walk. Mark your calendars, because I'm telling y'all way in advance about our Domestic Violence Walk. It's lit. We got DJ Surplus is going to be on. He's on the mic because he be hyping the whole crowd up, but he's going to be our DJ, and Sierra Artemis and Summer Jones is going to be the host, and I'm excited about that. So that is what we do. We make sure that we just love on our community. We show love and kindness to survivors and their families, and I'll ask that you do the same thing. Angela, I will keep you informed. I'll talk a lot. And Phoenix Rising, thank you, because this is a hush topic too. It is a hush topic that we got to talk about it, and we got to talk about our children and protecting our children, right? Protecting our children. Protect y'all babies. Please protect your babies. And Angela can't wait for Stump Out Crime. I can't wait for Stump Out Crime either. That's one of our biggest events of the year. So Stump Out Crime is on the rise. So thank y'all for just joining me tonight. Like I said at the beginning, coercion is not consent. When you try to convince somebody to have sex with you, when you buy them things, when you take them places, that is not consent. Okay. Consent is a solid yes. A yes. Okay. That they want to have sex with you. And that's something that we have to talk to our children about, and having that conversation is what is consent. Peace and blessings to you all. Thank you for joining me. And until next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be back telling y'all what I think about certain topics in our community. Peace and blessings.